And we may have our internal disagreements about boxing, but we're a team at the end of the day.
And that's what we like to hear. Listen, good evening, and welcome to the panel. The reason why I'm holding my phone up here is because we've got Dani. I don't know if you can see him. He's there in Saudi. He's got technical issues. So we're going to be doing kind of like a two-way, old school. But before we start, obviously Dani's here via Saudi. Dani, do you want to say hello? Good evening.
Hello, everybody. Hope all's well. And yeah, blessings.
Obviously, we've got Maestro.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are. Boy, is it a great time to be a boxing fan.
And we've got no other than BaseDaKID.
What's happening, people? It's been a while, but we've got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
We've got loads to talk about. First of all, what I'd like to say is thank God for the 5x5. Fantastic card. 50-50s. And obviously Queensberry went in there and smashed Matchroom to pieces. It was sheer entertainment from start to finish. I think that's probably a good place to start off with. So congratulations to Queensberry Promotions and commiserations to Matchroom Boxing. But I hear it's not the end. Maestro.
Well, I'm hoping that Matchroom is up for a rematch. I'm hoping that they can go away, lick these wounds, right? Because let's not skirt around the issue here. This was 8-0, right? I mean, they were 3 knockouts, right? And 5 victories. So this was a one-sided. We're gonna keep it clean. There was a one-sided destruction, but His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, by far the most revolutionary man in the sport of boxing, has planned a huge event in September in London at Wembley Stadium. What better occasion than that for a rematch? And you got to look at it this way too. The flag bearer for Matchroom is, of course, AJ Anthony Joshua, MBE, Olympic champion. People call him a 2-time heavyweight champion. I don't know what's going on with their GCSE or A-level or elementary school maths. This is not complicated. He was a unified champion holding 4 belts if you include the IBO. He lost them and then won it back. So that's 8. If you don't include the IBO, sorry, that's 6. I include the IBO because the great Lennox Lewis held the IBO. So at a minimum, he's a 6-time heavyweight champion. He'll carry the flag for Matchroom, and hopefully he'll take on Daniel Dynamite Dubois in the rematch. But look, we got to keep it real. It was one-sided, and we're going to get in all of the fights. I know we will. Go for it.
Base, we got to go to you.
I know technically Maestro counts each belt individually, but ultimately it's one reign, innit? It's once you have the reign, you don't gain on that reign until such a time until you lose it and then you win something back again. So I hear what you're saying, but to me it's 2 times, isn't it? He is a 2-time reigning champion holding 6 belts at the time, or 8. Outside of that, look, great event.
Bases GCSE transcript at the end of the show. I just need to
all right, cool. What was we saying? Yeah, great event. It was. I mean, it looks one-sided on the scorecards. It didn't play out as such, especially beforehand. There's a couple of fights in there that were questionable. And then outside of that, the event itself, once Bivol and Better Beef got basically got postponed off of this card, I feel like maybe His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh should have done an executive decision to move the event from where it was, only because that particular event with local talent and stuff probably doesn't make sense to be in Saudi with all the back history of the 2 British promoters. I understand why it stayed there, no issues, but there's times you're looking into that crowd and you're seeing that it looks like there's no one there, especially in the early fights, and those fights deserve to have people in attendance like from early. So outside of that one minor criticism, the card itself was tremendous, but the beating was even more astonishing. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that either side was going to whitewash the other. Like, I thought that, I had it 4-1 to Matchroom initially, but I could see 3-2, and then obviously some people had it 4-1 the other way. I don't think anyone thought that anyone would get cleaned up, and unfortunately, some people didn't show up. Some people overperformed, and then some people became stars overnight. So there's a lot to talk about.
There's so much to talk about. Dani, we've got to get you in here. They're asking where you are in the chat. So, Dani, your thoughts on yesterday? We're just going to summarize it before we go into the full card.
Yeah, it was a great event. It was 10-0 in the end. So 10-0 whitewash. Matchroom. It was a very bad day in the Matchroom office, and a great day for Queensbury. So I can imagine they'll be having a little tour bus or a big party down at the headquarters. There was some great performances in there from some fighters. Overall, the crowd. The crowd was there where it is. You see, even though it says the way the layout of that arena is, it's like everybody's just far away. It seems like they're so far away. That's why it's so echoey in there. Like the way the O2's built, everyone's kind of, the way it goes upwards, like quite quickly, the layout, it makes it more enclosed where you can hear people, whereas this one, it's like very wide outwards. So everyone's kind of going back in a row, and way before it starts to try and go up a little level. So that's why it sounds like there's nobody in there. So it's just the way that arena's been structured. It was a decent crowd, and it probably would have been more people had it have been at the main event been the original one. But so come, October the 12th, that will probably be the case if there's a strong undercard for that. But yeah, we've got a lot to get into.
We've got so much to get into, and why not start off? Sorry, go on, Maestro. Sorry.
Yeah, I do want to follow up on something Dani said. That's actually a indoor football stadium. So it's used as an arena for concerts and boxing, but the layout is wide like that because they play football matches there. So that's number one. And number two, they went head to head with the Champions League final yesterday, obviously, which couldn't have helped matters. I know they're football crazy there in Saudi Arabia.
So let's get into it then. Obviously, we're going to start off. And first of all, I've got to ask, how is Craig? Because obviously we was there, heavily supporting Craig. Really wanted him to get the win. Shocked that he didn't get the win. But I did know that, Hutchinson comes with a very... He's got a good background. He's a good fighter, and I knew that it'd be a good fight. But how is Craig?
Yeah, Craig. He's clearly, upset about the loss. So yeah, he's just got to go back to the drawing board and figure out how he gets back into contention again. Pride hurt. Never, no one wants to lose, But Willie Hutchinson, he fought a good fight. Obviously, he's got the amateur pedigree. He's, got a lot of athleticism, youth. He fought well. He's got, very accurate, fast, sharp puncher. Craig, I don't feel he didn't box as well as we know he can. He just couldn't get it going last night, unfortunately. I don't know, not sure why. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. But yeah, well done to, I'm not saying well done to him. But yeah, Willie Hutchinson got the win. And hopefully that he goes on to do, something, because he looks like he's got a lot of talent. But there was a lot of opportunities where Craig could have capitalized, where Willie Hutchinson was going for walks and looking for breathers and stuff. He was very crafty and tricky, got this herky-jerky, style. So it's one of those things, really. But yeah, Craig, he's all right. He's he'll be back. He'll be back.
I'm going to go straight to base. I'm going to reverse it back round because you know what we do. We break it down. Danny, you're going to have a point of view. You were there. You were in the arena. You were in the corner. So you know what we do. We break it down and we give our opinion on it. So I'm going to go to base, then Maestro, and then back to myself.
Yeah, look, I mean, look, I feel like myself and many others were thinking that was the one banker for Matchroom out of all the fights. If I'm gonna be totally honest, and I said it in my in the weekend wrap, so it's not like, you know, I'm changing my opinion. I was very disappointed. I've seen a lot of Craig live. I've seen obviously a lot of him on tape. I know the level that he's at or that he's been at. So yes, it might have been a bad day at the office, but he's supposed to be at that level where even on a bad day, you can, if your level's above someone, you can still get through it. You can still eke out a decision. You can still grind it out. Now, as in the first few rounds, I thought, okay, even though Hutchinson is actually, you know, doing some good work, he's being flash, but he's trying to sort of stab to that body. He's trying to take he's trying to just take a bit air out the tire. I thought, okay, he's trying to slow him down a bit so that he can sort of step on later on. But then he just stopped working like we know he can. The Boris Crichton fight, when he came back at that fight, he was working. He was being busy with the lead hand. He was digging down to the body. He was slowing down Crichton, and he was implementing all this new stuff that he had said he'd been talking about. In this fight, he barely did any of that until the second half, where it was almost like he's finally managed to kick into gear. But by that time, the stamina's starting to dwindle. He's actually taken some decent shots. Yeah, I don't think any of them really hurt him. I did, you know, but he's just given up so many rounds. He's just made an uphill task for himself. So meaning he's having to push further on in the later rounds, you know, which makes him even more tired. So he can't maybe do certain things. And there were several times, even though I think the referee probably should have spoken to him about it, but there's several times Willie Hutchinson is like turning his back, walking away. And I'm there on my stream like, Craig, why are you walking after this guy? Why are you just looking, waiting for him to turn around to re-engage? Like, clap him in the back of his head if you got to. Like, if he's turned his back, that's his fault. Zhang done it in the very last. Zhang done it in the last round. You know, he turns around, he ran. You've never seen Zhang move that quick before. He ran to go and close that show. That's what Craig should have done several times. You know, obviously in some of the later rounds, Hutchinson had to hold his feet because maybe he was feeling a bit of the pace, and Craig had a lot more success. But there's I think one of the things is like, there is some fundamental mechanical issues that Craig has, which I guess can be exploited if you are quick enough, or you can see the tell quick enough. And maybe that's something that has been, because he's been able to get away with it, it's not really been addressed. But those are some of the things that I feel like if he can't correct, he could end up having these sort of same situations moving forward. But I actually, one thing I will say though is I had it scored a lot closer than some of the other people, obviously the judges and some other people. I did have it 115, 113 to Willie Hutchinson. I could see 116, 112, and to be honest, I could even see 117, 111 because there was 2 swing rounds I gave in Craig's direction just because he looked like he did more effective work, or at least landed the harder shots in those particular rounds. But yeah, it was a comprehensive victory, no disputes about it, and Hutchinson moves on. So I will say congratulations on the victory, because at the end of the day, he went in the ring, had to take the punches, had to win the fight, and he did, with sort of no controversy. So shout out.
Maestro?
Yeah, look, this was the one fight that I got wrong on the 5v5. It's the one fight I got wrong. I got it wrong for 2 reasons. Reason number one, I was biased. I'm not gonna say I wasn't biased here. I was biased in favor of Craig Richards. I've been a fan of Craig Richards for some time. Craig Richards is from a part of London where I actually have roots myself. He's a Crystal Palace guy. And I've met him in person a couple of times. He's a really nice guy. And this is aside from my relationship with Dani, who's obviously very close with Craig. So it's obviously going to be very difficult to root for somebody that I have an affinity for. That's number one. But number two, I couldn't imagine a scenario in which a guy who was knocked out by Lennox Allen, I know there were cuts, I know it was at 168 pounds. I wasn't aware of
Lennox
this.
Clark.
Sorry, Lennox Clark. I said Lennox Allen. I meant Lennox Clark. Thank you. I couldn't imagine that particular person beating a guy who went 12 hard rounds against somebody of the pedigree and the caliber of Dimitri Bivol, or to a lesser extent, Joshua Buatsi. But I got that wrong. You know, he probably was tight at the weight. He probably was struggling to make 168 pounds. Moving up can often be rejuvenating to a boxer. I think that's clearly the case here. And I also think that he was brought back the right way by a top-tier promotional outlet in Queensbury that sought to rebuild him and get him ready to peak for a performance like this. His amateur credibility and pedigree was without question, but it was his performances at the higher level of what I would say is British boxing that led me to believe that he wasn't ready for Craig. And I was wrong. Craig got outboxed. Craig looked like a guy who was struggling to come up with solutions at times. To Base's point, there were some opportunities there, especially when Hutchinson was showboating. We saw how Usyk dealt with showboating, and we saw. I think the issue with Zhang was a little bit different because Zhang obviously first, it wasn't like Wilder was showboating. Wilder was possibly even concussed after that first right hook, and Zhang went in for the kill. But notwithstanding, Base does have a really good point there. A guy's walking away. You don't just let him walk away. You use your footwork, your speed. You know, you should be wanting to win the fight. You go for it. So the person obviously who's going to best be able to speak to this performance is Dani, who clearly did. But you know, let's not belittle Craig in any way. Hutchinson is a really good fighter, and Craig, if he wants to continue, should continue, because I think that he can continue to fight at a very high level in boxing and should be given the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, it was a tough one because obviously, like, I've got that bias as well. We know Craig, we get on with him, we've watched him live, and like Base says, we've seen the tape. It just seemed to me as I went and had a look at Hutchinson. Somebody says you might want to have a look at him. He's not going to be an easy fight. So I went away and looked at obviously what he can do. Saw that he's compact. Saw that he's got good feet. Saw that he's able to close that distance. And that he's got power in his punches. And that's when I started to put on X, this is going to be a good fight. This could actually steal the night. It's one of those that, you know, we're really going to have to keep an eye on, because Hutchinson is a good boxer. It just, how I saw it, it just seemed as if maybe, obviously he got boxed by the better fighter. He was outboxed, but it just didn't seem as if Craig was boxing how he usually boxes. And that's to kind of like echo what you were saying, Maestro, about him going up against Bivol, him going up against, obviously, Buatsi. We know the kind of style that Craig Richards has got. But then we saw in this fight that he ran out of, like, the ideas. He just didn't seem to have, like, the solutions to say, okay, he's doing this. We know that he's going to switch. Let's start to counter. Let's use our feet, and literally just trying to follow him around the ring, waiting for him to hit so you can hit him back. It was almost like Craig was just hesitant and pausing. It was a good fight. They were both knackered in the later rounds, which made it kind of like a bit of a slugfest, which kept us boxing fans entertained. It's just that I thought, out of all of them, I was definitely banking on Richards winning, but I don't know if that's because I've got obviously the bias towards him. So it's weird to talk about somebody when you've got that bias. But what I will say is congratulations, obviously, to Willie Hutchinson. Really good performance. Obviously, you know, it's winner stays on. And commiserations to obviously Craig. Let me just shout out the chat because there's a few people in here. I'm sorry, I'm going to start low at the bottom because we've had a few join us. We've got a Dairy Pennant. Who will Zili Zhang? Who wins? Zili Zhang versus Ajit Kabayel. We're going to cover over those shortly. Skyliner, the editor, he overlooked Willie. That's definitely a potential, but I think Dani might be able to answer that. Throwing and this is Virtuoso. Throwing single shots isn't going to win you fights unless your power is astronomical. Life of Bodge. It's a pattern with Craig, if we're being honest. You could elaborate on that in the chat. Obviously, that's a great fight. I don't know which one he's on about there. Usyk has all of the Infinity Stones for now. Obviously, we're going back for the heavyweight talk again. Fish says, gutted for Craig. Clearly a nice guy, but he's incredibly painful to watch. Andrew McIntosh, Craig didn't play his role. He allowed the Jamaican remarks to hurt him, I think he's saying. Where was Craig's corner when he ran out of ideas? Underestimated, Craig would win on return. At 34 years old, does Richard still have the desire? And that's from JDM. MT says it's possibly due to the new trainer. There's several kind of comments on that. I mean, is there anything that you want to say to that, Dani? Because obviously you was out there partially in the corner, etc., etc. Is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I can see where the person's going when they're saying it's a habit, because it's Craig tends to start slow, and that's something I have been telling him. He needs to start faster because it's always easier to hold on to a lead after 6 than to try and claw it back and run someone down and try and tip them over the line, because after 6, then you're really trying to, say you win the next 6, then it's a draw. So if you win one of the first 6, then you got to squeeze everything to squeeze out a 115, 113 at best. So it's never really a good position, rather than you being up after 6, 7. And yeah, you might take off a few rounds and then you can finish strong in the 12th or 11th and 12th. And that way you're nice and clear over the line because of the work you've done on the front end of the fight, rather than wait for the back end, because it's always harder on the back end because you're still exerting energy in the process. So, and unfortunately this time his energy reserves wasn't as high as normal. Hence he got tired. Normally he doesn't get tired. So he was tired on the back end whilst chasing it, which made it even more difficult to try and chase it down. But he needed to start fast, especially with someone who is on the move. With someone on the move, you have to close him down, similar to what Usyk did against Fury, who's a mover, similar to what Daniel Dubois ended up having to do to Hrgovic, who was boxing beautifully, the best I've ever seen in box. He closed him down and grinded him out, because from the second half you saw Usyk and Hrgovic had expended so much energy pinging up Daniel, expecting Daniel to be mentally fragile, and didn't realise that, Don Charles had done such a good job with him mentally that he walked through the fire. And by the time of the second half, Hrgovic, he knew the finish line wasn't at the end of the tunnel so clearly, whereas Billy Hutchinson, by 10, 11, 12, come the top round, he had a great big burst of energy because he thought, yeah, I'm up and the light's at the end of the tunnel. So that's how he had a great 12th round, whereas Hrgovic knew that was a long road home, even though he was up. But Daniel made him work for that first half of the fight, even though Hrgovic was up. And that's where you've got to get onto these movers from early. You've got to slow down their feet, slow down their movement, and make them work, because once they gas, all their explosive attributes become null and void, and they don't really tend to have a plan B. You slow down someone like David Haye, the explosiveness, they don't really have a plan B. You slow down explosive sharpshooter like George Groves, who Willie Hutchinson kind of fires off like and uses the same sort of Grant gloves. Once Froch was able to slow him down and grind him down, that's when he's able to start landing and catching him, and they tend to start falling apart. And that's where Craig didn't capitalize. And when he's turning his head, he was meant to clap him with the hook, whether in the face or shoot it straight down and chop it onto the temple, which he did a couple of times, but it wasn't done enough. He let him go for walks. He let him, walk away. He let him mug him and run off into the night, basically.
Well, what was the corner saying, Dani? Because I do try and listen to the corners in between. But what was the advice? Because we've all said it seems like he was running out of ideas. So what was said?
We was telling him he needs to get onto him. We're saying that he's behind. He needs to get onto him and slow him down and press him, because he was tiring. His mouth was open. He was breathing. You can see he's breathing. The guy Willie was breathing heavy. So we're saying you need to get on him and work. And unfortunately, Craig, for whatever reason, he couldn't do it. And he was shooting. There wasn't combinations back, whereas Willie was firing off combinations, leading off with combinations once he got the confidence, because naturally he's a counter puncher. He normally likes to look for the pull counter.
That's what, yeah.
Or try.
But he spent a lot of time waiting for that, like waiting to do that, and instead of seizing like opportunities in going first. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or even if you do walk into it, you fire off combination, kind of like what Carl Froch does. He doesn't mind. When you've got a good chin, you shouldn't mind eating. No, of course, no one wants to get hit, but sometimes you've got to eat that right hand, because once that pull counter lands, he can't fire a combination of a pull counter. When you see someone land a pull counter, they don't fire a combination off of it. They try to roll out under it or slips to the side off of it. So you've got to sometimes walk for it, even catch it, and catch and shoot, kind of Callum Smith style. Off of the pull counter. But once he wasn't doing that, and Willie got confidence of, okay, he's not coming for me.
Yep.
Then he started firing up with the lead left hook, right hand down the pipe, and it started firing off combinations. Even some of these tappy combinations, which was flashy and knocking Craig's head back, which wasn't it's eye catching. So it was just tactically wrong, and he just couldn't get going. Unfortunately, it's just sometimes it happens to fighters in boxing. I always, when people say, I just couldn't get going, I just don't know what it was, I couldn't get going, and I'll you learn all the time. You think, what do they mean by that? But Craig experienced that. So I've witnessed, because as you said, we all know what Craig's capable of and what he's able to do, and he just needs to go back to the drawing board and really, he needs to figure out tactically. There's some tactics, and as Base said as well, mechanically, he also needs to work to his strengths, because he was bowling over shots a bit too much, way over the top. When someone's dipping, you've got to shoot straight right down the pipe on the side of their head as they dip to the side like that, rather than looping them over. Because even when a coach does pad work, you tell them 1-2 roll, and when they roll, you go over, you scoop it over their head, so you don't scoop punches, because someone's always able to roll under. People don't tend to try and roll under a straight right hand, or even trying to roll under a jab. You normally roll under hooks, and normally someone who does like to roll excessively, you then try to feint them into rolling, and then you walk them into the uppercut as well. So that there was no uppercuts in there. There was a few things tactically that needed to be implemented. But going forward, this will be addressed and worked. And I know people are going to write off Craig now. Do you know what I mean? There's 4 losses, so
boxing. Boxing's fickle, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, boxing is a very unforgiving sport, and the fights presented now are always going to be hard. But it was always hard anyway. But they're going to probably be very hard fights now. Craig's going to go in probably B-side in probably most of these offers being offered. But Craig has to now just find within himself, how bad does he really want this? Because now with this Saudi stuff, not necessarily get on a Saudi card next. because it tends to be when it stays on. But it could possibly against a loser. You know, there's someone like Malik Zanad who just took a defeat himself.
I was just thinking that.
If Turkey said he wants him back, so because Craig did have a bad performance, maybe people thinking Craig's on the slide, they'll throw him in there. We think, yeah, Malik Zanad, he can look good, another bounce back win. But stylistically wise, Malik Zanad's a lot better for Craig than someone like Willie Hutchinson, who's on the move and stuff like that. So there's that possibility. There's other routes to go down as well. So yeah, these and as you saw, yeah, Zhang got beat by Joseph Parker. He comes back, wipes out Deontay Wilder. He's back in the game. You know what I mean? So a loss on these type of cards doesn't necessarily. It isn't the. It is, yeah, of course, it's devastating, but it's not necessarily the be all and end all. There are other opportunities back as long as you're willing to be in these big fights and tough fights, which Craig has proven he has the stomach for. Not all of the light heavyweights in the country or the world tend to have the stomach for big fights or good fights and, you know, meaningful fights, tough fights. You know, there was fighters who were offered to Craig. There was 4 fighters and they turned it down. So, you know what? Respect to Willie Hutchinson for being the man who did, you know, take the opportunity. And he stepped up and he delivered as the underdog. He delivered what, you know, many people thought he didn't. And sometimes when you are the underdog, you are able to find something of, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. And I've heard he's been, you know, he's had a lot of problems in his life. He was quite suicidal at one stage. He was going through a lot of problems. So he's managed to sort of find God and bounce back and stuff like that. So yeah, he's obviously gone to a dark place and he's come back the other side. So yeah, wish him all the best in life. And yeah, congratulations to him. I know earlier I said I wasn't.
No, I hear that. I hear that.
But obviously, yeah, I'm a bit upset.
Well, obviously,
with the result, but yeah. But as a sportsman,
hold on.
We should always be honourable. As a sports person, we should always be honourable in defeat as well as in victory. So yeah, congratulations to him.
Sorry, Maestro, what was you saying?
No, I was just saying it's very good to hear Dani say that because, you know, it's an emotional experience. It's a difficult, disappointing result if you were supporting Craig, especially if you were in his corner like Dani was. But one thing I did like to see was the mutual respect between the two right after the fight. And even between rounds, I saw them like touching gloves each other. So there was that respect between the two guys, as there would be when you lace up the gloves and take somebody on in most cases.
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about this because obviously it's a fighter that we all have that admiration and respect for. But we've got to keep it moving because there's 6 other fights. I know obviously it's 5. There's 5 other fights that we need to talk about. Obviously 4 within the competition. So I don't know how can we start? Shall we go, Maestro? Do you want to?
Yeah, we'll just go to the next one, right? Because at that point it was 1-0 Queensberry, right? Little bit
Frank's already smiling
for a lot. Little bit of a surprise for a lot of people, but then we got on to the second fight of the night, which was for the WBA featherweight title, and that obviously saw Raymond Savage Ford from Camden, New Jersey, defending his WBA 126-pound title against Nick Ball out of Liverpool, a fighter who many believed should have received the nod in his last performance in Saudi when he took on the WBC champion, Ray Vargas. He came up short. He earned himself a draw. A lot of people thought he should get the win. Going into this fight, I had picked Nick Ball, and I had picked Nick Ball because for at least 3 fights, Raymond Ford, who's from Camden, which is not too far from New York City, has been complaining about the weight cut, about making weight, about the struggles to make 126 pounds. I saw him fight Kolmatov in upstate New York, pretty much upstate central New York on the Oneida Native Nation reservation at the Turning Stone. And he was down on all cards. I believe it was all cards. He was down on my card anyways, and he needed a last-minute KO, and he literally got it to win the WBA championship. And at the time, Eddie was saying it himself, you know, he's likely going to move up, right? Because of the weight issues. But of course, the opportunity to fight on this card, of course, the pay that comes with fighting on this card was enough of an incentive to get him to try to make 126 pounds one last time, which he did with the aid, according to Eddie Hearn, of a nutritionist and private chef that was hired for him by Matchroom. Now, anyone who's fought knows that the weight cut affects your legs. And in this case, I felt that for Raymond Ford to be successful, he needed to keep the fight on the outside. He admitted between rounds, I forget which round it was, but he told his corner that, look, I can't really box on the outside. I've got to do it on the inside, which it's not like he didn't have any success doing. But if he could have boxed outside and used his left jab and his right hand and kept Nick Ball off of him for longer stretches of the fight, I think he would have won. But I knew that making the weight was going to be difficult. And what ended up happening was he'd get to the ropes, or Nick Ball would crowd him even in the center of the ring and would just unload eye-catching combinations, which when you're talking about that amount of volume of power punches, it's going to sway the judges. So in all of those close rounds where Nick Ball was letting his hands go, throwing 3, 4, 5 punch combinations from all kind of angles, it sways the judges. And in that style of fighting, I think he earned himself a 115, 113. The judges, 2 of them appear to have agreed with me. So we go to 2-0 I keep saying Matchroom, 2-0 Queensbury at that point. I'm guessing that this is probably one of the fights that Base is going to say was slightly controversial. I don't know what the other fight is, to be honest with you, but this fight I could see it being a close either way fight, 115, 113 either way, or 114, 114. I would have been okay with any of those results. But given what happened to Nick Ball last time, I'm actually quite happy for Nick Ball, the new WBA featherweight champion of the world.
Base?
I thought it's going round, so shouldn't it be you next?
Oh, should it be me? Oh, okay, then I can say something. I like these two match stylistically. I appreciate that obviously Ford wanted to stay at this weight to obviously get that nice payday that he would have been getting to fight out in Saudi. They both started off very compact and were throwing meaningful shots. It was lovely to watch. You could see that they were both throwing with intention. There was purpose. There was power. But what I will say is an absolute massive credit to Ball. A deserved win, in my opinion. I get it. People were saying that they thought that Ford just edged it or it could have gone either way. But I love watching Ball. I said earlier, he reminds me of like a young Mike Tyson. Not the head movements, but the way that he just moves around that ring and he's prepared to like jump into his shots and just attack you. He's beautiful to watch. I enjoyed it. I like the way Ball carries himself inside and outside the ring, which seems to be, also a talking topic. He's professional. He might have some of that, some of that arrogance that boxers need to have, but he was very professional. He was very respectful to his opponent, Ford. We never really saw any kind of like animosity until probably like the last time when they were, I don't know, at either the weigh-in or the presser. I can't remember which one it was. But he showed that he can be professional outside the ring and then literally go to town inside the ring. To me, it was a beautiful fight. I'm happy that he's finally got his belt. Yes, I get it. Like I said, people say it may be controversial for him. But to me, he was just more attractive. He was the one that was catching my eye as I was watching it live. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, so first things first. Shout out to Nick Ball. I am actually a fan of his style. I like Nick Ball. He is limited, I guess, in terms of some of his abilities. Part of that is obviously because he's so like short. There's only really one way that he can fight, and it is very effective for him. But in this fight, he didn't win. He essentially, so the first 6 rounds, I had the first 6 rounds even. I gave Ford the first round, I gave Bull the second, gave Ford the third, I gave Bull the fourth, and then I gave Bull the fifth, and I gave Ford the sixth. After that, I gave every single round to Ray Ford, even when he's on the when he's almost sitting up against the ropes, like covering up, taking sort of taking a lot of shots on the gloves, on the arms. You know, they're not getting through the guard. There's a lot of pitter patter shots. There's some, obviously he's trying to dig certain shots in, but a lot of these shots just were not landing. And then as soon as he would finish a combination, or he would be in the middle of that, he would get countered to the body, sometimes to the head. You know, Ray Ford would come back and then he would land a shot that was more clean. Most of the time his shots were more effective in terms of how the other person is reacting to them. And, you know, even when sort of Nick Ball tried to, you know, do some of his throwing you about tactics in there, you know, Ray Ford would either push back or he would hit off of the break to say, you know, you're not about to do to me like you think you can do to these other people. And don't get me wrong, a lot of those rounds were very competitive, and there was a lot of activity coming from Nick Ball, but a lot of the activity to me was ineffective. It wasn't scoring, it wasn't landing. Yeah, okay, at ringside maybe it looks a bit different. I get that, I can totally understand that. But even then, every time you see Ray Ford throwing shots, again, those shots they're clean, they're crisp, they're connecting, and they're having visible damage. And then obviously from the back ends of the rounds, you see that you see that Ray Ford, for me, just kind of took over the last 6. Yeah, there were some rounds in there that were competitive, but you saw Nick Ball get busted up. He's basically just standing behind the high guard, trying to beckon Ford on, but he's just taking big shots. Obviously, we saw the 12th round, how that worked out for him. He got hurt 3 times in that round. Credit to him. He stayed on his feet. He showed that he's tough. He shows that he's rugged and he's got a chin. But yeah, to me, it was a very clear performance for Ray Ford. And I had it 117, 111. I gave, like I said, I gave Nick Ball 3 rounds in the first half. It was even after 6. It was 3-3. And after that, to me, Ray Ford took all the others. And I know a lot of people keep saying, you know, that, oh, well, this is as much as you shouldn't get it because it's justice for what happened last time. Unfortunately, last time he didn't get robbed. The fight was a draw because he gave up the first 6 rounds. He lost the first 6 rounds of that fight and then threw away the 8th round after having an amazing 7th where he knocked Vargas down. That was Vargas, man. He got his 7 rounds. He did enough to make it a draw. When then Ball got the other 5 rounds plus 2 knockdowns, made it 113, 113. So I understand why people think that maybe because the flow of the fight showed him, you know, taking it to Vargas from sort of round 7 onwards. But round by round, that's not what happened. It was a draw. And it was a draw all because he threw away the 8th round. If he kept that 8th round, he would have won the title. And to be honest, I actually thought that he would get more rounds in it. So I did say, I actually did say on the night, I think he's done enough to get the victory. But when the draw happened, I said, well, that's the same scorecard I had, so I couldn't complain. But I thought because he was the home fighter, he would get the decision. That's not obviously...
I don't disagree, Base, but I don't think that saying you thought that Ball wins necessarily means that you think that the draw was a robbery. I just felt it was a close fight.
I didn't say the draw was a robbery.
Oh, I thought you was... No, I said...
No, I said because he got the draw in the last one, there could be, you know, they could say, oh, well, because he got robbed of the victory last time, that he deserves this one.
I don't think it was
but I never said that. I've never thought that he got robbed. I didn't think that he got robbed of a victory.
I'm just saying neither did I. I just thought he edged it. I don't think it was a robbery. It was a close to... See, that's the thing. Somebody loses a close fight, you have people always saying it was a robbery. No, it wasn't a robbery. The guy just lost a close fight, or in this case, it was a draw. But it wasn't a robbery. No way.
Yeah, but with this fight, like I'm not gonna say that. Like I said, I'm not gonna say that Ford got robbed, but I do think that he got jobbed on in this one. I do think that when you look back at the fight, and I've watched it again, and I had the same initial thoughts. Yes, there was a lot of aggression as such, but a lot of it was ineffective. A lot of it wasn't scoring. And I guess if we look at punch stats, you could probably be able to tell a bit better. But yeah, I just feel like the person who had the more of the fight, controlled the more of the fight, was Ray Ford, and the person that was resorted to moments in rounds was Nick Bull. But as much as I'm very disappointed that Ford was, to me, jobbed on the cards in that one, I am slightly conflicted because, again, I really like Nick Bull, and I'm happy that he's got one finally, even though to me he hasn't actually deserved both. But he's an entertaining fighter, and he will carry the division now that Ray Ford's about to move up to 130. That's my opinion anyway.
Dani?
Yeah, so I didn't actually see the
Oh,
fight.
I thought you was going to say you seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, Craig. Yeah, I was just in the back, but I saw a couple of highlights, and I can give you like some inside stuff. I always predicted Nick Bull to win on points. One, because Nick Bull's one of my favorite British fighters anyway. I like his style. You know what I mean? The way he ragdolled Isaac Lowe, punched up a few other guys. You know what I mean? The Vargas one, I thought he just about picked over the line. And if he does have a rematch, he probably will win. But one thing I will say about this week is that Ray Ford was struggling so bad with the weight, and Nick Bull was so fueled up. You could see energy-wise in the fight that Nick Bull had the energy because he was eating 3 meals a day. The only two fighters throughout this fight week who you saw eating the 3 meals a day was Nick Bull and Craig. All the other fighters, you'd see them maybe come in once a day or none. If they do come, they'll have a little salad garnish, but they're not really having no carbs and meats and stuff. They're really having to watch it. And Ray Ford, he was walking around, hoodie up, tracksuit on, glasses. So he was really struggling. You could see even that his whole demeanor was low, energy was low. Even in interviews he was doing, his whole posture was low, whereas Nick Bull was, happy, energized and stuff like that. I saw the highlights. So, yeah, Nick Bull started very well. Ray Ford, he hurt Nick Bull in the 7th round. And also, I thought, because I know his last 2 fights, Ray Ford, he's had to kind of pull it out of the bag later on. And in the 12th, where I saw him hurt Nick Bull twice, I was like, oh my God, is he going to pull it out of the bag again? Is this guy literally the new FBA Rocky? But Nick Bull managed to hold on and secure the victory. I haven't scored the fight because obviously I only seen highlights, but from the highlights I saw, obviously people like TNT and Queensbury, they're always going to show Nick Bull in his best light in it. So from what I saw, he won it. But the people I spoke to in the arena said it was close, and the average person had it 115, 113 to Bull when they scored it. And yeah, I think he'll go on to have a rematch with Vargas and be a unified champion, which I thought he should have been. Ray Ford's definitely going to go up. I spoke to his guy, Brian Peters. He said he's definitely going up.
Oh, that's Katie Taylor's manager, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Sandy Ryan,
yeah. And he was going to go up the last fight, but obviously he's won the belt and the money's, it's like the Joe Cordina in it. The money's too good to let go of the belt because in your next fight is either a final eliminator or you're going in as a challenger. So the money's not as good as obviously, and it's a defense out here. So he's probably spent one fight too many. He's 25 years old. He's still growing. So yeah, it's best for him to go up. But Nick Bull, yeah, he's very short and compact. So he's able to make the weight a lot easier. He'll probably be down there for quite a few years, if not the rest of his career. So yeah, well done to Nick Bull, and yeah, Ray Savage. I think he'll do well at 130 because yeah, he wasn't really looking after himself this week food wise. So yeah, that definitely played a major part. But he still carried power late, so that just shows you this guy's got serious power. So him at 130, drinking water, eating more food and stuff like that, he's going to be a serious problem. So yeah, look out for Ray Ford, man.
Yeah, both of them, once again, like I said, very professional after the fight as well. The speech that Ford gave was so respectful in the ring. It's just nice to see that professionalism like carries on after they've been in a battle with each other for all of those rounds. So I will commend the fighters once again. And I think today's key word that we're going to use in this chat is professionalism, because sometimes I think it lacks in the sport. So it's good to actually see a lot of that. We saw that yesterday. Base, I'm going to ask you to head up the next fight.
This was Sharaz and Williams, right?
Wow.
Yeah, look, it was so I had some reservations about Hamza Sharaz. I've always said he's got really good punch selection. He's got a really ramrod jab. He's got a good straight, but certain times I feel like he holds his feet in the or he holds his feet at the wrong times, or he doesn't let shots go until like he's in that sort of that sweet spot. And I wasn't sure about the chin, because he's a very tall guy making 160. He was a very tall guy making 154 initially. So yeah, there were certain things I wasn't sure about. I thought, I know he's got the firepower, but is he going to have the resistance himself? Whereas Ammo doesn't necessarily have the same level of fundamentals that Hamza has, but he's got more athleticism and he's quicker. Plus, he can maybe sort of dip under shots and be able to fire different combinations from angles. And that southpaw stance isn't something that Hamza's really dealt with a huge amount in his career. So I picked Ammo to win it on a split decision. I thought that Hamza would do well at the start. He would sort of maybe get hurt a couple times and then have to kind of maybe hang on towards the end. And ultimately, my prediction actually worked, or the way I thought the fight would go worked in reverse. He had to hang on at the start and then took the later rounds up until when the stoppage happened. But yeah, like he came through a crisis. He had to come through a crisis in the second round and the fourth to show that he's got punch resistance. He's got enough experience and enough know-how to basically hang on to the point where the ref is almost gonna call time to say get off him, but take the time you need to recover. He moved about, tried to get his legs back. They took a little while to come back, but he was managing to keep range. The way his body's constructed, he's also very good at being able to dig his elbows right into the sides of his ribs to protect those shots. So I thought that was very, very smart of him, and trying to work off the counters on the ropes at times. Then he just started picking apart Ammo Williams from sort of round 5, round 6 onwards. Ever since he caught him with one flush hard jab that just busted up the eye, started to swell the eye, and from there it was like a laser. He just couldn't miss it. And credit to Ammo, he dug deep. He tried to find different ways to get inside the guard. After a while, he thought the best option he's gonna have is literally sit on his chest. Even if he can't throw hard punches, he can stop Hamza from being able to throw with any great extension. And he had some success doing that up until the time when the ref would break them. And as soon as the ref would break them apart, bang, jab straight back in the eye again. And it was like rinse and repeat. Ammo had a couple of quick spurts sort of towards the end of the fight, sort of rounds 8 and 9. He had some fast starts, wasn't able to obviously sustain it, partially because again the ref would break them and he'd lose that bit of momentum. And the eye is just one thing, and Hamza just finding some slight uppercuts. The straight right is starting to come into effect a lot more now, and he's just starting to have his way up until the 10th round, which funnily enough, up until the time where Hamza actually caught him with that check. I think it was a check left that just took the legs away from Ammo. I was actually giving that round to him. He was actually outworking him. He outlanded him in that round. He was actually having a lot of success. I guess got greedy right in the final seconds, got caught, couldn't see the shot because it's coming from the same vantage point as where that eye is closing. Went down but got up, and then he came out strong in the 11th. They said, look, you're gonna have to win this fight by knockout. He came out strong, came out reckless, came out with the guns, obviously the guns loaded, but by this time Hamza's just got the measure of him. Boom, bam, bam, 3 shots, uppercut, sort of like a sweeping uppercut hook to the last shot, which wobbled and wobbled Ammo in towards the ropes, and the referee jumps in, waved it off. It was the correct decision. Like he wasn't gonna survive the rest of the fight as much heart as he was showing. But yeah, it was a great performance by Hamza. He showed that while he may not have the best chin, he's shown he can manage a crisis. He showed he's still got good punch selection. He showed that his defense has improved and his counter punching has improved, and his movement, it could be a bit better, but he's showing that he can use his attributes effectively. So big congratulations to Hamza Sharaz. I guess he's finally expunged the Bradley Skeet controversy, and he is looking more like the real deal. I still don't think he's ready for a title shot next, but that being said, he said it in the ring, if I'm not ready now, when will I ever be? So take your opportunity. Adames might be the easiest option in terms of those title shots, him or Lara. I'm not sure if he's ready for Yanibek just yet, but there's also Nasoltov, Miram Nasoltov, who we could maybe look at as a gauging stick before going to a Yanibek fight, as another Kazakhstani fighter, same sort of height as Yanibek, doesn't punch as hard, so it's an option. But yeah, congrats to him. See what he does next.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching Hamza, and I don't even think that he got out of second gear. He's kind of got this slow plod as he just keeps his opponent cornered. I mean, Ammo came out aggressive, hopping from leg to leg, moving that head, keeping that head offline. But it was Hamza just seemed to like understand what he had to do, and he didn't need to expunge that much energy to do it. And one of the things, like I said, but what I'll echo what you said, is the length of his arms, how he was able to tuck up, protect his temple, and still sink those arms all the way into his body to avoid any damaging body shots. He took a couple of solid shots on the chin from Ammo, but managed to, shake them off and still continue to walk forward. Enjoyable fight. I would have liked to have seen him just to push the gears up a little bit, because sometimes it just felt as if it was one-sided with Ammo doing most of the work. But I guess it's just Hamza's way of saying you box smart. Sometimes you don't have to do all of that work to get the results. And obviously, as a team captain, he got the results. He got the double points. And then Queensbury once again gets the win and is still at the top of the scoreboard. I loved it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him, but commiserations to Ammo, because I believe he was upset in the ring after. Like I said, it's easy for us to sit here and critique, but we don't know the stuff that goes on with those fighters. And he genuinely really wanted to win, and you could see that effort. But I think at some points, even his corner wasn't too sure if he was okay to continue. And I don't think it was just his eyes. I think Hamza got to his nose as well, because it looked as if some points Ammo was like struggling with his breathing, or breathing heavy out the mouth. But yeah, entertaining fight nonetheless. I'm going to jump back to Dani.
Yeah, that was a tough fight. I only managed to see the second half of the fight, so all this stuff where you're saying Sharaz had to come for a couple of crises, I didn't even know that. But what I did see is that Sharaz was good at his punch selection, and when Ammo was sticking it on him on the ropes, the ability to cover up and use the thing which Callum Smith does is he's able to cover his temple as well as get his his elbows so low that it covers the ribcage and throw off the catch counter from it. And he was able to do that on Ammo Williams, busted him up. Him also, Sharaz, the weight cut for him, I'm not sure how long he's going to be able to do 160. Obviously, he'll probably go for a world title. Whether he wins it or not, that's one thing. But I can see him definitely going up to 168 because he puts himself through a lot to make that weight. Yes, Ammo Williams also, has to make a bit of a weight cut, but nothing like what Hamza Sharaz had to do. But great finish. Ammo Williams definitely was emotional after, very sad. He was obviously dedicating that fight to his late granddad, who was a Cherokee, hence he wore the headdress, and obviously he's into the spiritual stuff with the tiger tail. And so, it really meant a lot to him. Towards the end, when he did tried to have that last hurrah against when he pinned Hamza on the ropes and he was letting his hands go just aimlessly, kind of like the way he was shadow boxing in the public workout, which looked very erratic and it didn't really look good. But it was just a last ditch, a desperate attempt. And Sharaz just it slammed in some serious punches, and the ref made the right decision on stopping it because it just been dropped in the 10th, and he wasn't going to make it through to the end, and his face was busted up. So Hamza Sharaz is now the WBC silver champion. Ammo Williams, he's suffered his first defeat, has to go back to trouble. But this is a great victory for Hamza because remember, Ammo's the same guy that Felix Cash was scheduled to fight how many times and didn't really want it. And many people tipped Ammo to beat someone like Felix Cash. So I imagine Hamza, WBC silver, I imagine the winner, if Hamza doesn't get a title shot, the winner, the WBC champion right now is Carlos Adames. So you could probably see Hamza Sharaz fight Carlos Adames, which will be a good fight because Carlos Adames is a big puncher from the Dominican Republic, based his second home. And the winner of Felix Cash and Tyler Denny, if they could get a little something in with maybe Hamza towards the end of the year, possibly also. But there's some good potential opportunities out there, especially if Felix Cash wins. I can imagine them trying to do Cash Hamza Sharaz on a 5 versus 5.
Imagine.
Stick middleweight contest back in there, and that would be a serious fight. So
I'll have some of that. Of that. Listen, I just want to say Simon Stevens has put something in the chat. Thank you for a great evening, but I'm sad today. Rugby league legend Rob Burrows has passed away due to motor neuron disease. Cherish your life, enjoy your sports, etc. And yes, I've seen the several posts. I do apologise. I don't watch rugby, but I have seen obviously all of the posts. So condolences to Rob and his family at this sad time. So yeah.
I watch rugby, but I watch rugby union. I don't know much about rugby league. But condolences there and RIP. What I do want to say about this fight is that I was actually surprised that anybody would pick Ammo Williams over Sharaz, especially after Shiraz's last performance. And by the way, the other thing too is, I think you mentioned this, October, this was 4 points potentially for Queensberry, which they ended up putting on the board because Frank quite wisely selected Hamza to be his team captain. Although I honestly felt that the sure bet to put down as your team captain was Zhang, but I think putting down Sharaz as captain possibly was done as a motivational thing as well, and to show the confidence that the Queensberry team has in the young charge. The reason I say that is because Ammo Williams, to me, revealed his level in the Steve Rolls fight. Steve Rolls is kind of a gatekeeper level guy at this point in the middleweight division, and he went the full distance, tough rounds with Steve Rolls, a guy who later on was knocked out in the first round in a Canadian domestic fight against Stephen Butler earlier this year in Montreal. The same Stephen Butler who obviously was destroyed by Janibek. So I felt that the level that Sharaz has been fighting at, specifically in his last fight against the world title challenger in Liam Williams, was much higher than any win Ammo has had, and the performance was obviously better than what he was able to do, Ammo Williams, in facing on Steve Rolls. Again, a fighter who was knocked out in the first round in a Canadian domestic scrap earlier this year. Now, Base pointed out something that I felt was very astute, which is the fact that that Sharaz has very long arms, which enables him to really tuck up nicely on the inside and be very astute and mindful defensively on the inside. He doesn't necessarily throw a lot of volume on the inside, but he's able to be very defensive on the inside. He's almost as good as an inside fighter as he is as an outside fighter, actually. So I felt that was very good. A lot of the technical stuff has already been reviewed. So what I will say is, in terms of where he should go, he's a WBC silver champion. The champion is Carlos Adames. I actually think that's a winnable fight. I actually think that the toughest fight in the middleweight division is actually Erislandy Lara, who I think is punching very hard. And yes, he's getting up there in age, but he's a dangerous 40-year-old. If I was Sharaz, I would target Adames before Janibek and Janibek before Lara, to try to age out Lara a little bit if you are going to go for undisputed. And then try to establish himself for a few undisputed defenses at 160 if he can comfortably make the weight. But I have another name ahead of Carlos Adames, and that name is the #1 ranked middleweight in the IBO. And for those of you who have followed me long enough, you know that I respect the IBO. I respect the IBO because Lennox respected the IBO. I respect the IBO because Dmitry Bivol respects the IBO. I respect the IBO because Klitschko respected the IBO. And I can go on and on and on. Loma right now is an IBO champion. I have no idea why the WBO is recognized higher than the IBO, but it is. Anyways, long story short, the #1 ranked middleweight under the IBO is none other than Chris Eubank Jr. Go for the IBO. All right? Because the thing with the IBO, once you have the IBO, you could still maintain your ranking with the WBC, right? So he can go for the IBO, get that title in a domestic matchup against Chris Eubank Jr. Maybe they could sort that out at the big show at Wembley if Chris Eubank Jr. can work on his relationship with the Hearns. You know, that relationship goes back to the fathers, Barry Hearn and his own father. They sort that out. He joins Team Matchroom, and then we get Team Matchroom versus Team Queensberry. We got Chris Eubank Jr. versus Hamza Shiraz for the vacant IBO middleweight championship. And then from there, right, if Base thinks he needs a little bit more seasoning, maybe he could get it through that fight. And then he takes on Adames, and then he takes on Janibek, and then he takes on Lara, and potentially becomes the undisputed champion at 160. That's how Maestro management would lay it out for the young man. But those are just my thoughts.
One thing, Maestro, just quickly. Obviously, yes, you're correct. In terms of Steve Rolls and obviously getting knocked out by Stephen Butler and everything, but I feel like some context maybe is missing in that. But outside of that, you obviously talked about Liam Williams being a former world title challenger, but so was Steve Rolls, because he fought Triple G. You know, he went the distance with Edgar Berlanga, who I'm not saying is a great shakes guy in any note, but he went the distance with him. He went the distance with Amo, but Rolls had been in there with
really troubled Berlanga. I was at that fight on Press
Yeah.
Row.
So I'm saying, so he was a better, more credible name to have gone in the ring with than Liam Williams was at that time, because everyone had seen Liam Williams' punch resistance from about 4 fights earlier than that. So yes, Hamza did amazing to get him out, but I feel, and one of the reasons I picked Amo is because I felt like that fight flattered to deceive, because Liam Williams was tailor-made, punchy, takes shots early, and then obviously tries to come back later on in fights, but you can get to him early, and Hamza Shiraz is very good at starting fast and finishing fast. So yeah, that was just my reason why I kind of felt Amo would pull it, would sort of pull it out of the bag, but it was never that was never a prediction that I was heavily confident in. And again, because I picked the other way, to me, whenever I pick against someone and then that person wins, they go up more in my estimation, because I wasn't expecting them to win. If the person who I expected to win wins, I'm not giving them the same level of credit, because I was already expecting that, unless they put on like the best of performances you'd ever seen in your life. But that very rarely happens.
This is why we love Base. So Base is now going to say, of course, that Nick Ball has gone up, Shiraz has gone up, and Shiraz, and definitely the next guy we're going to talk about, Daniel Dynamite Dubois.
Do you want to start that off then?
Nick Ball, not so much. I just want to say that he's still high in my levels. I still like Nick Ball. I still like where he goes, but he hasn't gone up as much because he didn't. To me, he didn't win that fight.
You giving the credit to Daniel Dynamite Dubois.
Oh, that I have. That's on my video. I've stated
Hold
that.
on.
Oh yeah, because you have to.
Let Dani get in. Let Dani get in.
One sec, Maestro. Just before we go to that, I just want to say that there's no need for Hamza to wait out Erislandy Lara because Lara is 40 and we saw his last fight against Spike O'Sullivan about 18 months ago, and this guy, he looked like an old man in there. Yeah, he got the victory, but you can see he's ready for the taking. That's why I'm surprised Chris Eubank Jr. hasn't just gone for him, because that's a champion, just a sitting duck waiting to get beat so you can become
I agree. There are vulnerabilities there for sure, but let's put some respect on our fellow Caribbean brethren's name right now. Okay, he's a former champion at 154 who I felt beat Canelo. I know he didn't get the nod. All right, he should have gotten the win against Paul Williams as well. He didn't get the nod when he should have. You go up to 160, he's hitting hard, and let's face facts, he was ducked by the other Kazakh. A Kazakh that people want to rate as an all-time great middleweight, which I don't. A Kazakh who ducked Devrenchenko in order to take on an undersized Vanis Martirosyan. And I'm talking about Triple G. Triple G ducked Erislandy Lara. There's no two ways about it. So at the end of the day, look, it could be vulnerable there. But I'm going to be honest with you, and maybe Danny's going to disagree. Maybe he's going to agree.
He's smiling.
A 40-year-old, you listen, my man. I know Danny's a fellow aficionado. He's the aficionado. I'm the master knowledge. He's the master aficionado. And we're master knowledge and master aficionado, especially when it comes to our brothers and sisters from what I consider to be one of the greatest parts of this world. I'm talking about the Caribbean. So listen, at the end of the day, as if I'm matching up Hamza, there is no doubt that Chris Eubank Jr. is a fight that I would take before taking on Erislandy Lara. There's no two ways about that. Erislandy Lara, the ring IQ, the punching power, the footwork, the defense, it's all superior to Chris Eubank Jr., who turns into a wild man sometimes when he gets up in there in that ring. I mean, it's the opposite of Cuban style when it comes to him. So we're gonna go. If you're Hamza, Sharaz, and by the way, Queensbury, you can give me a call. I don't mind advising on this stuff. My commission is not that expensive. But here's the thing.
You're as bad as Base. Base says he's waiting for his commission. Which one was it, Base?
I need, yeah.
It was for the
Is it Justice Honey?
No, it was four of them ball initially, but now it's Justice Hooney and Moses Atama, because no one was asking about that fight before me. So yeah, I want my finder's fee.
Standard fee, all right, is about 5%. Some people charge 10. I think 5 is usually fair. I will reduce the fee to 2.5% plus airfare for me and my wife to go out to London and sit in nice seats at Wembley Stadium to see Hamza Sharaz take on Chris Eubank Jr. for the vacant IBO middleweight championship of the world. And then we can pivot to Adames, who, by the way, I think is an easier out than Lara, even at the age of 40. Don't hate on the early 80s babies right now. We're not finished yet. We still got a little bit in us left. All right. And then we go Janibek, and then we go Lara. That's how I do it. Danny, go for it.
Yeah, Dani, heavyweights. So yeah, congratulations once again. So Queensbury's actually, they've gone clear now, but we're moving on to Daniel Dubois and Filip Hrgovic. Come on,
Who's
Dani.
going first?
You.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I heard Daniel Dubois. Well, I was thinking Daniel Dubois in it. But this was, a lot of people had Hrgovic winning this. They thought, so Daniel Dubois, there's twice now he's gone into the fight as an underdog. I picked Daniel Dubois because I have seen that Don Charles has mentally managed to wire Daniel Dubois in such a way that he's now, I don't think you're going to see those mental fragilities that we saw in the Joe Joyce and Usyk fight. Even though I do believe that body shot was legitimate, but that's another story, as we've all gone over. But yeah, the first early part of the round, first round, Hrgovic, this is the best I've seen box, to be fair. He was pinging Daniel with the 1-2s down the middle, hitting him with Daniel Dubois. By the round 3, would have crumbled and just took a knee, or but he was soaking up the punishment, coming forward still. Even if he get a little stunned, what he would do, he would back off, dance around a bit, and then reset, regroup, and then try to come back in. Hrgovic boxing nicely, 1-2, constantly landing big shots. But every time Daniel did hit Hrgovic, the spray would come off his head violently. But the first 5 rounds I gave to Hrgovic easily. Then Daniel started to come into it in the second half, but he made that work in the first half to make Hrgovic work so much and exert himself. Even though he won the first 5 rounds, what he had to do to win those first 5 rounds, he was never going to be able to keep up for the next 7. And that's where Daniel used that persistence beats resistance tactics to start getting to Hrgovic, breaking him up, busting up his face. Whereas Hrgovic started going on the ropes, kind of, looking, sagging a bit. Yeah, Dad was like basically hovering inside the ring. I don't know why nobody told him he can't do that, because he's not actually part of the corner team.
Excessive voices again. But yeah,
excessive voices. There was the other guy, the European guy. I don't know who he is, but he was shouting when Don Charles is giving instructions in the corner.
Yeah.
But my friend Edgar got into a fight with security out there outside. It was a bit of mayhem, that one, but somehow maybe Daniel Dubois, because he's not he's not a big thinker, it doesn't really actually tactically probably made him a bit better. Sometimes you need a bit of madness in Daniel's life.
Hold on, Maestro doesn't like you saying that he's not a big thinker. Maestro's interjecting again.
He sounded like Eddie Hearn talking about Gervonta Tank Davis right now.
No. With Daniel Dubois, we see
he's mocking it.
People, I know. You see when people mock someone like Daniel Dubois, like Jarrell Miller, because he's not thinking a lot. He's not a man who's going to really like harbor on the insults. It's just like he brushes it off. So any sort of melee, he's not going to look around the ring and think, don't lose concentration. He's just focused on the man in front of him. So it's actually a good thing in the ring to not be a big thinker, i.e. not worrying about what's going on the outside, not worrying about the third and fourth voice in the corner, because you're focused on one man, which is Don Charles. Hence I said in the beginning, Don Charles had wired Daniel Dubois to follow his instructions and listen to the words he's saying. I don't even think he's listening to his dad. He's listening to what Don Charles is saying only. So yeah, you can have all these voices of his dad screaming and the other guy screaming, but he's zoned in on what Don Charles is saying. Even when there's a fight breaking out outside, he's focused on what either Don Charles is saying or I'm going to get this guy in front of me. So that's what I mean. I don't mean it like he's like a plonker. Yes, he has that bit of Lenny from Mice and Men type mentality, but he has that also Lenny strength, which is actually very beneficial to him. Those who've read the book, the men back in the day will know what I'm talking about. So yeah, he smashed up Hrgovic's eye. Hrgovic started looking like, I'm not really sure about this. And Daniel Dubois got the stoppage. The ref waved it off. It was cuts by punches. And that's a very great win because, as we know, Hrgovic, whether we like it or not, got the victory over Big Bang Zhang. And Daniel Dubois has just got the victory over Hrgovic. Hrgovic was hitting him with a couple rabbit punches as well, but Daniel Dubois didn't even shake or wobble for them. He did get told off for it. I think someone like Don Charles did say something to the ref back in the backstage, you know, the pre-fight talks or whatever, to watch out for that. So the ref got onto Hrgovic early because he is very egregious with those rabbit punches. We've seen him do it to Dempsey McKean, to Mark DeMori, i.e. and vice and so forth and so forth. So yeah, man, the daddy was daddy calling, man, and he's the man. He's now the WBC, IBF. Interim chat, and I'm sure, you know, that's just a waiting game as to when he'll get elevated potentially, because we've now heard that Tyson Fury Usyk is set for December, and we know the IBF don't really like these rematches. So Daniel Dubois will most likely be defending the full IBF title in Wembley Stadium versus Anthony Joshua in September. So yeah, we're going in with Daniel Dubois, Dynamite Dubois. What's it? Daniel the Deptford Dynamite Daddy Dubois. yeah. Come on. From Deptford, fighting as a champion. And it's great stuff. So I'm so happy for him. You know, a man who's been written off, coward, bottle job, you know, BLM, knee taker, and all this stuff. All these guys saying all this nonsense. But now look at him. That's twice he's come through with flying colours against serious opposition. And I'm just so happy for him, man. So well done, Daniel.
Yeah, nice one. Base.
One thing quickly about that IBF situation, from what I've heard, I think they're actually going to allow that belt to stay in circulation for the undisputed, and it's because I think because Usyk has reported an injury, they won't strip someone while they're injured. Hence why they put the interim title on the line for this one. That's what I've heard. So I think they may allow that fight to take place, but then you have to fight the mandatory next, no excuses. That's what I've heard with regards to that. Now, in regards to this fight, the reason why obviously Daniel, like, deserved winner, but the reason why I would say that there was some maybe controversy or questionable whether this is one of the, you know, like the clear-cut ones, is because I mean, look, the first 6 rounds, like, Daniel Dubois was getting his head taken apart, jabs, right hands. Like, Hrgovic was basically having his way with him. He was looking a bit. He still looked a bit laboured in some of his exchanges, but you know, Daniel was trying hard. But you could see every time sort of he's chopping that right hand over the top, and then Daniel would literally, like, he would either go on the outside, bounce around, try to go for a walk, or he'd literally like lunge in and try and just hold Hrgovic that way. But one of the reasons why I say that I feel like it's a bit, you know, there's maybe a little bit of controversy towards this one is, Hrgovic obviously was having this huge success. Initially, they had said that the first eye cut was caused by a head clash and not an actual punch. Then obviously they said, I think the punch started it and the head clash opened it up further. But Hrgovic was getting warned excessively for rabbit punches, which actually, funny enough, he wasn't throwing that many. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 cuffing shots when they was in a clinch that Daniel created, and it weren't really big shots, but the referee was warning him. However, Daniel Dubois was going in with the head excessively in that fight. It was actually, parts of it reminded me a little bit of Evander Holyfield, in like the way he'd shoot a shot, dip into the chest, and then just push up with the head or knock the head in and get the little bits of the little gristles of hair that he's got there, and like really trying to rub it into the eyes and the face. But there's several times he was on his chest, up, like nuts to the side, all of those shots, and the referee only admonished him on one occasion. Like, I think by this time, after Hrgovic has got 2 big massive cuts over both of his eyes. So obviously, like, while Daniel came back into it and the fight ended up being stopped on cuts itself, I feel like Hrgovic probably could have got the he probably could have seen the final bell realistically, because he didn't look like he was gassed to the point he was about to get taken out. I feel like he was. I'm not saying I don't know if he would have won. He possibly could have got a draw, because he did clean up in those first 6 rounds. I had it I had one of the rounds a draw, and then I had him winning, but I had him winning the other like 4. Then there was like another one you could have given. Daniel sort of came back round 6 and 7. So he probably could have lost on points. I'm not saying he couldn't have got stopped. He maybe could have got knocked out because Daniel's a lot more prolific than obviously like someone like Zhang is. But I feel like Zhang hits harder per pound, and Hrgovic is able to sort of take shots. He's able to kind of roll and stay a little bit like astute. But yeah, I just feel like because of obviously there was a lot of like, you know, the head going in and stuff like that. Daniel was being just as dirty as Hrgovic usually is, but I felt like only one person was being admonished for it. So maybe a bit of poetic justice in that, but that's where I feel like there's a little bit of not so much controversy, but it's like, you know, there could have been an avenue for Hrgovic to either see the final bell or potentially get a stoppage later on, potentially. But that being said, Daniel, he took those shots. He went through the fire. He showed that he's got a good engine. Like I thought he would tire out with the amount of movement he was doing. But he's one of those like muscly guys that it's not gym built muscle. It's natural muscle. So it's fluid. It's a bit more like there's a bit more bulk in there. So there's more carbs to be able to use. His engine is really good and his work rate is good. And even when you think that you've got him battered, he's able to grind you down. And congrats, he's gone. That's twice I've picked against him in the last 2 fights, and that's twice he's got the win. Both by stoppage. One a bit cleaner than the other, but still 2 stoppages. So he's gone up very high in my estimations of late. And some of the old thoughts that I had and some of the old feelings, while I can never totally say that they're gone, but he's allayed some of those fears. Definite big ups and congratulations to Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, go on, Maestro.
Yeah, it was quite a fair take by my brother Base. I wasn't quite sure where he was going to go with it when it comes to the controversy, but I see what he's saying. There were a few issues with the head, and obviously rabbit punching is an issue that's come up for me anytime you pretty much watch Filip Hrgovic fight. The issue though with the stoppage, he didn't protest at all. He kind of gave the doctor and the referee kind of the puppy dog looking eyes, and then the doctor whispered into the referee's ear and they stopped it. And at that point he just was resigned to the fact that the fight was over. To me, the major controversy involving Daniel Dubois, and Basit said it's 2 times he's picked against Dubois where it's been wrong. I mean, had a gross injustice not been committed against Daniel Dubois, it would have been 3 times. Daniel Dubois should be, I'm happy for the kid. He's the IBF interim champion of the world, but he should be the unified heavyweight champion of the world. Unified, because I'm sorry, that was a clean, legal shot that landed on Alexander Usyk's belt line back in Poland last year. Just as those feelings were base, haven't dissipated about the way he's felt about Dubois in the past, my feelings related to that quote-unquote low blow, that injustice committed against Dubois, his family, the Dubois family, Carolyn Dubois, their great father, and of course, Daniel Dynamite Dubois himself. A little bit of the sting of that has been removed, thankfully, through this amazing achievement. Let's also make reference to the fact that 2 points were put on the board for this win because it was by knockout against Hrgovic. And at this point, it was over, right? At this point, it was over. Eddie Hearn, he said he was getting calls from his pops, right?
Oh, was he?
Yeah, and text throughout the night, but that it stopped after the Dubois fight because at that point, there was no coming back for Matchroom. It was 8-0.
Maestro,
right?
one quick thing about that about the Hrgovic, the puppy dog eyes, he didn't complain. I think one of the reasons why, and this is because I thought this as well, I thought that it was going to go to technical decision. Because again, I'd been told that one of those cuts was caused by head clash. So I thought that's why he didn't protest in that way, because he didn't think it was a technical knockout to begin with. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, yeah, that's a very fair statement. As usual, Base is a neutral arbitrator, on his channel. Everybody
Sometimes I think he likes to go against the grain on purpose, though. Sometimes I think he's a bit like you, and that's why you two are really good on here, because you sort of you like to prove a point on disagreeing with stuff. It's your opinion.
No, I mean, I disagree.
I just get this I'm going to disagree with you because
I only disagree when I legitimately disagree. I don't.
nah,
disagree
you'll do it.
just
You'll do it for banter. I know what you're like, Maestro.
So at the
I've
end of
seen you do our
the
streams on
end of the
things
day,
that you don't like.
at the end of the day, last summer, if you're a fan of British boxing, and every now and again I gotta pull this out, because there's people on your channel, on Base's channel, that call me Yankee this and all kind of other stuff.
It's
I'm
just
no
your
Yankee.
accent. Look,
I'm
we're
no
not.
Yankee.
Listen,
But
I've got to
here-
clear this
here-
up.
no, but here's-
Sorry, Maestro. I've just
Alright.
got to clear this up before you carry on.
Yeah,
We're a channel that won't sit here as a collective
yeah.
and do name calling, because it's
Yeah.
pointless and it's very, very immature. So I won't be calling anyone any specific names
Oh.
because of the way they look or because of
course
what
not.
country they're from.
Of course not.
We don't do that here. We're here to debate boxing on an intellectual level. You guys are far way ahead of me when it comes to boxing knowledge, but I'm happy to tag along. But what we won't do here is immature name
Of course
calling.
not. Of
We
course
don't do
not.
that
And
here
at
because
the end of the-
what's the point?
I agree. And at the end of the day, if people want to take a national front perspective that you have to look a certain way and speak a certain way to be considered British, I mean, that's on them. That's fine. But here's what I'm saying about it. If you were a fan of British boxing, which I am, which you are, which Base is, which Dani is, a travesty occurred last summer in Poland. A tragedy. I mean, it was a travesty against British boxing. And at the end of the day, it takes somebody special to rebound from that. It really does. He took it out on Big Baby Miller, right? Who was talking a whole lot of stuff, trying to get into his head, talking about everything from his mental to his questioning his sex life, let's just call it that way, right? He ended up stopping that dude, coming back through a little bit of adversity. It was great preparation for the win this Saturday night against Hrgovic. He's not the unified like he should be. He's the interim. That's fine, but it's going to set up hopefully the round 2 of 5v5. And the question is, will Big Frank give the captaincy to Daniel Dynamite Dubois? Double knockout points against AJ. Because look at this right now. I'm going to say this right now, so there's no misconstruing of what I said. I want everybody to be clear about this. Daniel Dubois, if he faces AJ at Wembley, he is going to knock AJ out.
I know you've always said this, but this
Yes.
you've always said, at least you're consistent.
Yes.
I was very happy for Daniel Dubois because obviously, we've been there from the beginning. Somebody that was very shy, reserved, clearly didn't like the cameras, avoided the cameras. Somebody that spoke very low, very quiet, and was very nervous. Obviously, that reflected with some of his, performances in the ring, and he's had this tag that's kind of like followed him. So it was nice to see him, even with Hrgovic that was trying to get into his head. Fair enough. I know Daniel brought it up at the first 5v5 presser about the sparring, but then Hrgovic kind of like followed it through when they had like the round table with the heavyweights with Carl Frampton on TNT. So it was nice to see him get the victory. And what I will say is regards to his athleticism, he moves around a lot. He's able to dip under the shots. Yes, we did see some head action from him, but we saw him take a lot of clean shots off Hrgovic. Hrgovic's 1-2s were beautiful, brutal, especially the 2. The 2 was landing on his chin clean, but Daniel was like, no, and he'd throw the overhand, he'd march forward, and he stayed in there till eventually he got the stoppage. So I'm super happy for Daniel. I don't know what happens next. Obviously, yes, it's potentially AJ at Wembley. We're hearing that AJ was sacked ringside. He's obviously, there for all takers. He'll fight anyone. Exciting times. The thing is, what I find interesting is that Don Charles trained AJ before AJ went to Team GB. And now, obviously, Don Charles has got Daniel Dubois. Yes, of course, AJ's developed and changed over the years as a fighter. But I think Don Charles, as he is, he's quite an emotional person. I think this will be an interesting fight because of that emotional connection that Don Charles has towards his fighters, including, Derek Chisora. And now, obviously, he's got Daniel Dubois. So I am looking forward to it. But I do think that AJ wins because of the experience. But I do think it's a good fight. But it's heavyweight boxing. You can't really call it, can you?
How
Maestro,
exciting
just make sure that you don't go missing if what you said happens doesn't happen, because you have the tendency to do that a couple times.
Do that, actually. He does. He ghosts,
I
doesn't he?
don't
In fact, where's Danny? I got to have Danny back
I
me
don't
up
know
on
this.
this one.
I'm right
You-
here.
You've gone
You
missing
do
a couple times.
And
do.
listen, just to be clear, everybody listening, 718-618-4284. Put the +1 before that. +1 718-618-4284. I don't go
Change
missing.
his number.
I don't go missing. I'm gonna repeat it back one more time.
Is that in a phone box?
+1 718-618-4284. They got me out here like Mike Jones.
Mike Jones. Upgrade Lemonade. I will try and get Don Charles. I have reached out to Don Charles. I've also reached out to Sean George. I'll see what I can try and get on the channel this week or in the next coming weeks for sure. Definitely. So that's Upgrade Lemonade.
I was just speaking to Sean downstairs. He was playing table tennis.
Nice.
So yeah, he's good man. And the thing is also, it's a good, interesting thing you brought up about the Anthony Joshua, Don Charles, Daniel Dubois thing, because Don Charles, the emotional thing with him is that some people might not know that he was actually meant to train AJ as a pro, and he was put in a predicament.
Yeah, I know.
By Derek Chisora to choose whether he can't train both. It's either him or it's either AJ or him. And Don Charles chose Derek because obviously, the close bond he had with Derek. And so he's obviously emotionally, because he's thinking, man, the amount of money I could have made had I chose AJ.
Do you think? I don't think he's about money though. He doesn't come across as a greedy person. He just wants his fighters to win, doesn't he?
Yeah, but obviously he would have been in a much better financial position, even though he's done well for himself. But trust me, he would have thought the money I would have made, which ended up going to, Tony Sims and this guy and that guy, rather than himself. But now he's got Daniel Dubois, and he has the opportunity to turn Daniel Dubois into the next British heavyweight superstar because he's young enough. And
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've got to go.
Potential team captain.
Team captain. We've got to go on.
4 points.
We're going to go on to the last fight, the finale. Obviously, we know what it is. I remember I've seen, obviously, Eddie Hearn saying, can we at least have an 8-4 and not a 10-0? The panic is truly setting in. And I saw a little bit of nervousness from Deontay Wilder, as per usual. It's not unusual for him to look like that, to be fair. He was warming up on the pads, and Zille seemed to be just, pacing up and down the changing room, getting ready to come out, because obviously, with these events, there could be a 5-star hip-hop performance before the main event. I was swaying both sides for this fight, and then I kind of said, I think Zhang's going to do it, because I could see that, I don't know, he looked leaner. Obviously, the weight with Zhang, I know he's kind of heavy anyway, but there was a massive weight disparity between the two. And I'm just going to be honest, I just feel like maybe something's missing from Deontay. I don't know if he, like I said, I could go back to the Fury fights. Something's been taken out of him. There's a piece of him that's just missing, and it was quite sad to see. That's why, like I said, I'm not going to be disrespectful about it, but we saw when he took that sweeping, I think it was a hook from Zhang, and it swept across his nose. in his face, but obviously did hurt him, because then after that he turned his back, like, what are you doing? And then obviously Zhang just saw that opportunity. Oh, okay, protect yourself at all times, and just obviously did the business. And then to see him like flat on his back and still try and get up and still walk towards the ref, and the ref did make the right call to stop the fight. But to me, I'm going to leave it as that. Deontay Wilder is Deontay Wilder. Commiserations to him and congratulations to obviously Zhilei Zhang. But yeah, that to me, that was a bit painful to watch. But nevertheless, it's a fight at the end of the day. I don't know. Base? In fact, Dani, because my hand's hurting, I'm holding the phone.
Yeah. Oh man, I picked Deontay Wilder to win. I thought with the motivation of him being brought as a team captain, him knowing that it is the last hurrah.
The last hurrah.
I thought, yeah, he's going to bring it. And as we saw, Zhang got beat last time out as well as Deontay Wilder. But yeah, I just thought Deontay Wilder would do it. I know it's within fight week. I watched him walking around and I thought, man, damn, your legs are mad skinny. Like, I know they're skinny, but they just look so thin. But I thought, you know what? Maybe he's going for the speed and he can generate that plantation power. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to go
explosive power.
Yeah.
I know that's what you meant, Dani. We're not even. Yeah.
Yes. So we're going.
Yes, and we'll be back after a short break.
A short commercial, but so I thought, yeah, he's gonna do it. And in there, he just, once he got in there, he wasn't releasing the right hand. He was very tentative. It was kind of Audley Harrison-ish for the first couple of rounds, which was frustrating. He finally did let the right hand go, the 1-2 landed, but it didn't really budge Zhang, who had a 70-pound weight advantage. Zhang, he was walking around the hotel all week, and the way he struts, I love the way he walks. He walks around like so confident. He's just so confident. He walks like, I didn't see his head, just like he just looks like, yeah, I'm the man. Like, you can see he walks with a swagger and a positive arrogance, because people like to use the word arrogant always in a negative connotation, but he walks around with a positive arrogance. When you actually go up to him and engage with him and talk to him, he's very accommodating, friendly. His English is not very good, but he's very friendly nonetheless. And once it comes to that fifth round now, and also Zhang was pinning Wilder on a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you are defending those body shots and headshots, the weight of them shots alone are going to be moving your skeletal bones left and right. Do you know what I mean? And so that was not a good. That was not a good refuge for Wilder to do, is to try and sit on the ropes and try and fire off that Hellenius lucky punch, because he was like pouring, it was cuffing. We weren't turning his shots over. And then it got to that fifth round, and then he got clipped with a hook, and then he did a 360 spin. The internet always wins. They showed highlights of him doing the 360 spin, on the pads and on that little. Oh,
they're vile, man.
When he did that funny lean back Joe thing 5 times and the spin, and then obviously he got hit. Zhang ran over to him and hit him with a massive right hook, which just flattened Wilder, where his head bounced off the canvas 3 to 4 times. There was a close-up angle where you could see his eyes swimming. It looked really bad. And when he got up, you see his legs very stiffened and shaking. And the ref made the right decision calling it off. Wilder's 38 years old.
38,
to me, he's finished. Yeah, Zhang is the older man in age at 40, but he still has those fast recoil shoulders that are able to really push punches out fast, and he's still got a lot of good life left in him in the fight game. But Wilder, hey, listen, he came into the sport just to pay for medical bills for his daughter who has spina bifida. He became a world champion, made 10 defenses. His net worth is like 50 million. He's set out to pay for bills, and he's made more than that. So he's actually achieved more than he actually set out to do. And he's done what he needs to do. He had a great career, but I think it's time he hangs them up now. He doesn't have that same passion and drive like he used to. You can see it in his whole demeanor. He's at peace. He's in silk pajamas. And Big Bang Zhang, he moves on after his defeat. He's come back. He's got a victory in spectacular fashion, and he's now back in the game. And that led, to a 10-0 whitewash by Queensbury over Matchroom, which just basically closed the show. So what I do feel also is that every man on that team Queensbury can feel like, yes, we all together, we earned that 3 million, aka 600 grand each, because it would have been different had one or two man lost, but the team won. But then their man still get their 600 bands, and man on their team's looking at, but did you? I've really got to split this. It's like on that game, The Chaser. It's like, yeah, you went for the low offer, but I've got to split these winnings with you now. But every man earned their crust, and Frank Warren, he's definitely gonna be throwing a champagne spray back at the Queensbury headquarters when they get back to England, and he's happy as Larry. I can imagine.
Frank Warren's like 25 right now.
Yeah, he's 25. Francis George. You know what I mean? He's going to be. I can imagine his speech. He's going to be, listen, Matchroom, they had the dominance of the sport for a long time. You know what I mean? I know how to pick out fighters. It's all good having the financial backing and the TV deals, but it's about the quality of the fighters. And I know how to pick fighters. I know what I see when I'm looking at who to sign and who's going to be a superstar in the future and the present. And I've picked all British fighters. All four of my British fighters basically won me that fight, because basically it was, when you think of the first four fights, it was all them Queensbury guys were British guys. Big Bang Zhang winning. The game was already up.
Yeah.
By then anyway, it was already 8-0. So the British boys,
the
British guys won the competition from Frank. So maybe it's something a thing where Eddie might need to start trying to reinvest in the British scene, because even all his international dudes, they got beat. The Americans, a lot of people thought Bray Ford would win because he's in America and he's on America, and you just got a guy, Nick Paul from Liverpool. People not thinking much.
The little Mike Tyson.
Yeah, but Liverpool is a serious place, you know what I mean? So they breed good fighters out there. So yeah, man, it was an amazing show, an amazing night. The arena looks amazing. The logistics, the effort put into it and stuff like that. But yeah, Queensbury, man, that was just a really big domination on their part, and you just got to give hats off to them. Frank gave a good motivation speech to them, and it obviously worked. He gave a good motivation speech to Daniel Dubois before the Jarrell Miller fight. So as much as I say Don Charles was wired Daniel Dubois, Frank Warren.
Oh yeah, he supports him properly, doesn't he? Yeah.
To his guys, you even see in the interviews, he's TV, he's YouTube gold. When he starts getting into it and the shoulders start going, he was on fire, man.
Yeah, we love it. Listen, go on, Maestro. Yeah.
I just really want to lay the foundation for what was happening before the beginning of the fight. So if you could just please share my screen, I would be very appreciative.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me just put Danny in so he can see the screen himself. Right, yeah, go on.
So this is where we were after the Dubois fight.
How do you feel? Can you mute this? Fuck off, Queensbury. Fuck off, TNT. Well done. Can we get Deontay Wilder to just get a knockout here? 8-4 sounds so much better than 10-0. You know what I mean? What a night, though. Every fight's been unbelievable. I'm not... It doesn't hurt.
So there you go. So, look, it was 8-0. And the other thing that you got to admit, too, that you can admit is that Deontay Wilder was a mercenary. Deontay Wilder was a ringer. Deontay Wilder wasn't even really a matchroom fighter, if you're going to be honest about it. I mean, you could say that maybe Hrgovic was at least 50%, right? But I would say zero. Like, Deontay Wilder was put into this position because unlike Queensbury, which is stacked with heavyweights, right? Joseph Parker, Zhang Zile, Tyson Fury, and then they got young guns like Moses Itama coming up, right? Matchroom didn't really have anyone, although I believe Johnny Fisher is now slated to take on Alan Babbage later this summer. So Eddie had to ask for special permission, right, in order to bring in an outsider, a mercenary, right, a hired gun in Deontay Wilder. Now look, Deontay was already talking about retirement if he lost. It might be his last fight. He said a number of things about bringing back the old bronze bomber, right? The bronze bomber that was criticized because he said he wanted a body on his record, right? And Zhang Zile was asked about it. And Zhang Zile essentially shrugged it off, right? He said, what bodies does he have on his record? Like, who is he really even knocked out at the end of the day? Zhang Zile rated I think he gave his power a 3 or a 6 when Umar asked about it. So yes, to Danny's point, he was very confident going into this fight, right? And with all due respect to King Charles, who I know a lot of the people on your channel will probably really like, and head of state, all of that, all right? Much like the leader of China, President Xi, who I consider to be the greatest statesman in the world today, doing great things for his nation of China, Zhang Zile did not succumb to U.S. arrogance, U.S. threats, the threats of a paper tiger, as Chairman Mao once famously called the United States. And as of today, it's not just Big Bang, it's Chairman Bang. So just to commemorate my comrade China,
God.
all right, we're putting on the cap real quick.
You see, you are a real Trojan horse. You do know that, don't you?
Chinese speed, Chinese power. Just like I said before the fight, it's Big Bang. He bangs everybody. And he banged Deontay Wilder beautifully with that right hand.
Big pause.
With that right hand.
I don't want to hear about bangs. Oh my God. Hold on. I've got to get Danny back in here shouting. Hold on.
No
Bang.
Puffy.
Chairman Bang.
No Puffy.
Chairman Bang.
Base, do you want to give some parliamentary procedure in here, please, and just break down the fight?
Well,
we're starting politics and inappropriate words.
I'll be very brief in my assessment here. This is the only fight I actually predicted right, but with predicting it right, I actually predicted the rounds as well. So I'll take a bit of credit for that. But yeah, outside of that, look, as Maestro said, he was essentially nothing more than a gun for hire. It was, he not involved in any sort of team matchroom spirit or whatnot. If I'm, as far as I'm concerned, there was better people you could have got than Deontay Wilder. I've never thought that big of him, especially since 2017. Before that, maybe there was a little bit there, but yeah, this was always going to end that one way because, as I said previously, while Wilder might be trying to set up that right hand, Zhang has a very, very good defense. It's a very tight defense. He knows how to catch and shoot. He actually has the pretty decent head movement. And very rarely, if you look at him throughout the majority of his fights, it's not often he gets hit clean or gets hit flush, especially from straight shots, which is the one shot that Deontay Wilder had. So I saw all of that. Then I saw 68 pounds of weight advantage, plus someone who's got just actually probably faster hands than you because he takes less torque, less motion for him to be able to shoot a shot. which we saw with that counter right hook right in the 5th round. Yeah, I mean, it was always just going to end one way. And, you know, the highlight for me was ultimately Zhang had Deontay Wilder turning into Michael Jackson the way he was doing them spins in the ring. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And he shot off. Like, he must have thought he thought his name is not Zhang Gillet. He must have thought his name is New Usain Bolt, because he bolted over to him and caught him with that shot from there. You know, there was Chinese power in that. There was some ancestral Vex powers in there. He probably was praying to other religions. He probably took some of the Alabama power and put that in the hand as well. Like, he put everything behind that shot, because he said, I'm embarrassed that you have been labeled as this great heavyweight for so long. I want your powers. He turned like Highlander. I'm coming for your head, and I'm taking everything that you had in the past. It was beautiful to watch, and I was highly satisfied by the way it ended. Very
Absolutely.
conclusive.
Let me just build upon Base, right? The thing that Base forgot to say, though, is that he banged out Deontay Wilder, but
No, I wasn't saying that.
it's fine. So here's the thing, though. He said he was going to bang him out, and he banged him out. But I'm going to walk you technically how we got through to the big bang. All right. Look, I was saying it all week, and great work by Umar, by the way, by Box Nation. He presented both fighters with skills sets and asked them to rate each other. And Zhang was very honest, and I felt was right on point with rating Deontay Wilder's skill set, right? And here's the thing: I was hearing from so many people. Oh, I'm sorry if you've heard me say this. People on my channel has heard me say it, but I'm going to say it again. Oh, the southpaw killer is the straight left hand. Okay, but the orthodox killer is the straight left hand. Like, nobody ever finishes the other side of the equation. And at the end of the day, what was going on, if you noticed it in the fight, was that Zhang, just like he did with Joe Joyce, set up the big bang by constantly forcing the opponent towards the right hook. I called the right hook knockout. He hit him with the right hook, and then he finished him with the right hook at the end. And look, I understand people are feeling sorry for Deontay Wilder, certain people.
No, that's just me. That's just me.
The person I feel sorry is Mark Breland. Mark Breland, the African-American a fighter, arguably one of the greatest Olympians United States has ever produced. He's in multiple Hall of Fames, including the African-American Sports Hall of Fame. He's the former welterweight champion of the world. He's the guy that was teaching Deontay Wilder the technical aspects of the sport, something that Joe Dees was unable to do. So they brought in Mark Breland. What was Mark Breland's reward for saving his fighter from what could have been a career-ending beating at the hands of Tyson Fury in the second fight? He was accused of being some kind of a agent spy for the Kronk Gym. He was accused of spiking Deontay Wilder's water, and then he was fired. No apology was ever issued. The Breland family, shout out to the son, Anthony Breland, and shout out to Mark Breland, the great fighter that he was and the great trainer, received death threats over that from these Deontay Wilder sycophant loser fans, some of whom have YouTube channels, by the way. So no, I honestly don't feel sorry for Deontay Wilder. I wish he had gotten to the point where he could have given Mark Breland an apology. We never got there, so it is what it is. He got banged out.
What I want to know, though, does anybody know? You see, when he got caught with that first right hook, as he spun 360, he said something and motioned something like he was moaning, complaining to the ref about something before Zhang ran over and hit him with the end punch up. What does anyone know what he was saying or what?
Yeah, he was discombobulated because he got hit hard. He was discombobulated because he got hit hard and didn't know where he was and was just trying to speak to the referee, and he turned his back. Well, just like Base was saying in the first fight, right? When somebody turns your back, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, punch him, hook him.
Yeah, protect yourself at all times, ain't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really say anything about the Mark Breland stuff because that was bad. That was bad. I do remember all of that. So, right. So, we're here. We're at the end of it. We've reviewed all of the fights. We've spoken about it from start to finish. Yes, okay, I could speak about Bivol, but I'm not going to. All I'm going to say about that is congratulations. He won the fight and he's going in against Artur Beterbiev. Please, Artur, don't fall apart between now and October the 12th, because I just think it might be father time with him when it just comes to all of this excessive fitness that he does. And obviously his bones and his joints not being as supple as it would be if he was a lot younger. So what do we do now? We're hearing rumours about Anthony Joshua in Wembley, potential to be a UK 5v5, which would be nice to see, to be fair. There's some good fights to put on there. I think Eddie Hearn's going to go back to his drawing board and have a look at all of his fighters and really have a think who he's going to put in there, because obviously it's the revenge now. He wants to even the scores. Will he be able to go 10-0? Who knows? But he's going to go out on a revenge to get his win back for Team Matchroom. It was good. It was fun. It was competitive. It's what we needed in boxing. It's a fantastic idea. Hopefully it continues. And even when it's not for, Riyadh season, we start to get more mix-ups on the cards between all promoters. There's lots of other stuff that we could talk about, but I was going to keep it strictly 5v5 because it's been a long week, a long weekend. Guys, have you got anything that you want to cover before we disappear?
No, the only thing. So go ahead, Danny.
No, go. I got to think.
Yeah, the main thing I wanted to say is respect to the Saudis, respect to Turki Al Sheikh for allowing Bivol to be who he is. I was at Bivol versus Canelo in Vegas. They wouldn't allow him to fly his flag. They wouldn't allow him to say where he's from. They wouldn't play his national anthem, even though they played Canelo's national anthem. And then they wouldn't allow him to be paid for months after the fight, even though he took substantially less for that fight than Callum Smith got for the fight, than Billy Joe Saunders got for the fight, than Caleb Plant got for the fight, and that other people, including Jermell Charlo, have received to face Canelo. He showed up in Saudi. He had his flag in his dressing room. He had his flag on his gear. They announced him from being from the country that he's from. He shouldn't be ashamed to be from that country. It's a proud people. It's a proud country with a great history, a great language, and a great culture. So big up to Dimitri Bivol for representing where he's from, and big up to Turki Al Sheikh, His Excellency, for allowing him to be where he's from and not hiding where he's from, something that the United States of America and its government that doesn't allow people like Dimitri Bivol to do.
Yeah.
Can't argue.
Yeah. Well done for that. Good performance by him. He's. I hope that his. I think either his uncle or his granddad's okay, because he fainted that back, but that might have been due to the excitement and the heat, because it has been 46 degrees, 45, 44 degrees out here, Celsius. So yeah, it's very, very hot, and it's dry heat because there's desert. There's no sea anywhere nearby, so it's literally. So yeah, I hope he's okay. Also, I just wanted to give a shout out to Lawrence Okoli, who had a good performance out in Poland last week, Friday or Saturday. It was Friday. Sorry, last week Friday, with his first round knockout over Lucas Rozansky. I spoke to him. He said that he's looking to go up to heavyweight. He said a couple of opponents he's looking at. So well done to him too.
Yeah, his brother was supposed to come on here, but I don't know what happened to him. Yeah, Henry Okoli was supposed to come on the live. So Henry, if you're listening in, thanks for not turning up again. Base.
Quick shout out to obviously Bivol for finally getting a stoppage in the last 6 years. It was well overdue, but it was needed. And you can see what it kind of meant to him, because I've never seen him scream in the ring after a performance, and he did that. So that's like a weight off the shoulders. But big up to him. It was a good event. Again, I just feel like it possibly maybe needed to change venue just due to obviously the main event now being off the card. Also, I'm gonna keep saying it, they need to figure out what they're gonna do with regards to the timings of these cards. There's no reason we should be watching the main event starting at like 1 o'clock in the morning. If you're gonna do it for quote unquote a UK audience, then you need to make it so that the very latest that the ring walks are happening over there is about midnight, which is about 10 o'clock over here, or 12:30. Because even the fighters, it's not fair to them to be going in the ring at 3:30 in the morning. That's ridiculous. If it means that we've got to have main events over here a couple of hours earlier than usual, fine, because we can still go and do something else for the rest of the evening. It's lovely, it's no problem. That's all I want to say about that. And then lastly, before I go, Ryan Garcia is not in the clear. For anyone who's maybe thinking about that situation, he's still got answers to answer for the contaminations that he's claiming. So for anyone who thought that, yep, he's been exonerated because there was trace amounts of whatever in some supplements he sent off, not the case. But yeah, thank you very much for having me. And that's me out.
Danny?
Base, one thing, being out here, the reason why they do everything late, like for instance, all those grand arrivals, press conferences, basically like it starts 9 p.m. out here. The reason why they do that is because it's too hot in
No, that stuff, no, don't get me wrong, Danny. That stuff I understand. I understand all that. I'm just talking about the fight cards, because the fight cards are inside. So if they're inside, I'm assuming there's air conditioning. Get that so that you've got those at a certain time.
Yeah, it's very air conditioned inside. So yeah, they could start the fight, the card a bit earlier. But but the thing with all the build up stuff why it's late is because you couldn't stand out there in the boulevard in the daytime.
Yeah, no. The build up stuff, no problem at all, because that stuff's sort of 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock over here. That's not a problem. I'm just literally talking about the fight cards, because when you got 6 fights and they're all 12 rounders, I don't need to be up till 2:30 in the morning watching the card. So yeah,
I totally agree. Listen, guys, thank you ever so much for everybody for your participation. Obviously, everyone in the chat, obviously the panel, it's been good. We'll do this again. I don't know when. We'll sort it out privately, but I just want to say finally, just to end up on a positive, really, just a massive thank you to everyone that supports our individual channels or supports us as a collective. We really appreciate it. We're out here in a boxing space, and I guess sometimes it can get a little bit tight and a little bit crowded. So we really do appreciate that, you accept our voices within such a niche market. It really doesn't go unnoticed. So big up to the chat, big up to the subscribers. Without you guys, we wouldn't be out here surviving. So a massive, massive thank you to all of you guys, and enjoy your Sunday. And if there's nothing else,
hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You watch the show, please hit the like button. It helps us a lot. It brings people over to the discussion. It helps us with the algorithm. Just hit the like button and drop a comment if you can.
Yes, please do. I know you guys couldn't see me today, but subscribe to at Fight Fan TV Live. Thank you for supporting all of our channels. Big, small, we all like it. So yeah, shout out from myself, Gus, whatever you guys might know.
Oh yeah, that's a new name I learned you had. Yeah, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for people.
Stay ready.
People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't care. People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't